So we just got done the Ubisoft Forward event, and I have to say, I'm starting to miss E3. Now, we're halfway through the summer, right? For the summer game fest, all this stuff, right? Basically, we're gonna have, so many months of announcements, and we still have some stuff coming up with Microsoft's event, their first party event. There's a Nintendo Direct that's being rumored. Sony's gonna have another State of Play in August. So it's not like we're done or anything, but like I think looking at it, we're about halfway through, and like this Ubisoft event, like even if this happened exactly how it was during E3 time, because everything is so scrunched together, we would like right now kind of move past it and be talking about like Square's event that's coming up tonight or something like last year, because Ubisoft struck the channel and I couldn't stream the Square stuff. I remember that. But like, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Now we're just gonna kind of hang out and be like, oh yeah, let's talk about that Ubisoft event for a while now, because there's not much else happening. So yes, so far I miss E3 right now, or at least a week of a bunch of gaming news stacked on top of each other currently. But let's go through this event somewhat. Honestly, I was taking some notes and I just kind of stopped at points. I'm like, all right, they're talking about Hyperscape. Okay. But they did start with Watch Dogs Legion. That's coming out October 29th, a little sooner than I thought, but we did hear that they were going to try to have Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed pretty much in the same year, right? In the same quarter. Like, so they didn't have much of a window to launch them both in. They're both coming out this holiday, but Watch Dogs Legion coming October 29th, 3.5 months from now, it will be out. And they showed gameplay for it, and it's still going with the same premise that you could pretty much recruit anyone around you for the most part, and they would have different traits, abilities, skills, and you can use them, and at times the story would change. They showed like dialogue changing. I'm curious how many paths there will actually be for each character based on who you use, right? That's still something I need to see, because I almost feel like originally they overpromised something that they couldn't deliver, and they're scaling it back a little bit, but it is out October 29th. From what they showed, I think it's going to be a fun game, but I do see some of that Ubisoft fatigue that we're going to talk a little bit more about here kind of creeping in there with the large world, most likely doing similar things over and over, and it being less focused, I'll say, at points, and more, here's a big map, tons of points everywhere, good luck kind of thing, right? Now, they did unfortunately show Sam Fisher for Elite Squad, which is a mobile game. So, that happened, which is just the best, right? At least they have Sam Fisher in there and some, yeah, okay. Come on, Ubisoft. You got to do something else with Sam Fisher here in Splinter Cell. Like, you keep Sam Fisher around for like cameos and things like Ghost Recon, which is a series that's fallen off kind of badly now. And now he's in this mobile game, which I guess he showed us last year anyway, and that was a whole thing. But okay, sure. Apparently Sam Fisher is relegated to guest spots and phone games at this point. Okay. And then we had Hyperscape talk. Not very interested in Hyperscape myself, but I do know some people are, and that's fine. It's just, to me, it's like I'm Battle Royale out at this point, so I'm like, all right, I'm kind of moving past. So they were talking about it for a little longer than I thought they would, but they want to put emphasis on Hyperscape, since that's going to be like their big service-based game going forward, similar to what they have, I guess, with Rainbow Six now. Ubisoft has been really leaning into the service-based stuff to try to keep one game around for a long time. I think it'd be better if they had 2 or 3 games that were like that, and maybe that's what Hyperscape is going to try to be, and then they can focus more or less on these single-player kind of experiences that don't have to be these massive open-world things. But then they showed Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and it seems like they're going to do that again with Assassin's Creed. Sounds like it's going to be bigger than Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I thought they were going to try to make it smaller and more focused. It sounds like it's going to be the opposite. And from what they showed with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it really does not feel that different from Odyssey. And I liked Odyssey. I thought that was pretty fun, but I would like a bit of a shakeup for the Assassin's Creed series, just a bit in terms of gameplay, the world, something. It just feels like it has to change a bit, because it's becoming very much status quo, at least from what I'm seeing. I think Valhalla will still be fun, but I think it's going to feel very Ubisoft formula, right? Where it's like, oh, you go around, you unlock towers so you can see the map. You have a ton of things to do on the map that don't feel super impactful with the world around you. I did like them showing the kind of how they were assaulting different castles and keeps. I think that could be cool because you're bringing like your entire army, your entire town with you to go try to take it over. And it seemed like there are going to be a lot of phases and stages essentially as you build through it with some of the gameplay they were showing. Those set pieces seem like they could be kind of fun. But like for the most part, it feels like it's just going to be this big, massive world and there's not going to be spots where there's like nothing. So I kind of feel like what they should do with Assassin's Creed now, they've done Vikings. Let's go to like feudal Japan and just do some sort of change up with the gameplay style, something. I think that would be a good idea for them. They did close out with Far Cry 6. We already knew about this. It leaked. We knew all about how they were going to go about with the casting. They did bring in, okay, so I like this a lot. If you watch Breaking Bad, you know, for me, one of my favorite villains or antagonists in there was Gus. It was Giancarlo Esposito. I always have a hard time with that. Esposito. Awesome villain in Breaking Bad. Really, like, he had this sense of like uneasiness at all times when they had Walt around him, and he could even feel it. And that was a big deal for Walt, because he's like looking at him, and you don't know what Gus was going to do in Breaking Bad, but just the kind of the presence around him worked really well, and it really translated well over to Far Cry 6. It seems like he's going to play a similar character as he did in Breaking Bad in Far Cry 6, but that's fine. Like, I think it's going to be awesome in terms of his character. I'm not sure about Far Cry 6 yet because they didn't show any gameplay, and here's my stance with Far Cry. I liked Far Cry 5 initially. I'm playing through it, I'm like, oh, this is fun, and then the Ubisoft fatigue starts to come in, and it starts to feel, once again, very formulaic, right? Where you're going to set points on the map, you're unlocking parts of the map by climbing towers, and it just, I don't know, it just starts to really kind of drag on you a bit, and it's just, you kind of just stop. I kind of fell out of it. I was like, okay, I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again and not really going anywhere. It just, I don't know, it got boring, basically. So I need to see more about Far Cry 6. I don't know if they're going to go with that same stance where it's just a big open world, you walk around and lock stuff, and they have different characters in it, and it feels like Far Cry 5, but I'm hopeful that they have some new ideas for it, and having casting Giancarlo Esposito, I think, was a good move for the villain in the game. Now, yes, there were some notable omissions here. Gods and Monsters was like nowhere to be found. Okay. I think that's still coming out first half next year. They said they were going to have another Ubisoft Forward event coming up. And that's the other thing with the E3 situation where there's no E3. Some of these developers, publishers, companies are able to separate their games and have multiple events throughout the year, which maybe that is better for them because then they don't have to just do like a 1-minute teaser. They can maybe do a full gameplay, but then we get left with kind of these presentations, whereas for E3 they may have tried to jam twice the amount of games into this presentation because that's like the one time of the year that they can have so many eyes on it. But they said they were going to have another one later on, and we missed Gods and Monsters. We of course missed the fabled, the legendary Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. I didn't necessarily think that was going to really happen here, but that would have been a fun thing to just kind of throw out there. Sure, I mean that's still a dream at this point for a lot of people, and well, there's always next Ubisoft Forward. But the other one that I noticed it's very odd right now, okay? Beyond Good and Evil 2 is like completely missing. I'm thinking this game is going to be like 2022 at the earliest. It's probably a next generation title, right? Like PS5, Xbox Series X. It's not even going to touch the PS4 or the Xbox One, like at all. They're just making it for next generation. And it was strange because we saw gameplay for it at one point, right? They did like a full stream and we watched them get out of the ship and fly around, and we were like, and then they showed a trailer that had Jade, and like it was a super strange situation. There's a lot of confusion around this game right now, and I almost feel like they had to go back in development, reboot the whole game, and almost restart to rebuild. I don't know. I almost feel like initially they got way too ambitious for what they wanted to do, and they had to scale it back a bit and reboot the whole thing. Remember, they were asking people to like make music or artwork or something for the game. They were going to the community to help them build the game, which sounded really weird. Like I didn't get that one at all. Yeah, Beyond Good and Evil 2, who knows what's gonna, that might end up being a game where Ubisoft just forgets about it and never says anything. Like if it gets canceled silently, they may just pretend like it didn't exist. Here's hoping though, next year we'll hear about it again, but like I'm not expecting to see that game for at least a year. Maybe if we have another E3 next year, maybe it'll be there, but like 2022, I think, is optimistic, we'll say, for Beyond Good and Evil 2 to come out. Overall, looking at this presentation, it was just boring. That's the best way I can put it. Looking at it, nothing was overly compelling. Nothing was that interesting. At least they showed gameplay. I'll give them that. But at times, the gameplay seemed to go on for too long based on what they were showing us, because it didn't seem like anything that was that revolutionary or new even, where we were like, oh, this is it. This is the Assassin's Creed of next gen. No, Valhalla, just like I said, looks a lot like Odyssey at times. Far Cry 6 is probably the best announcement here, and we didn't even have gameplay for that. That at least could have been something. It's like, well, this is a next-gen game. Straight up, here's the gameplay to show you what we're working on for the PS5 and the Series X. But they just had, like, what, a pre-rendered cutscene set up for us, and we watched that to set up the story, and that was kind of it. Let me know what you guys thought about Ubisoft Forward. Like I said, this is the reason I miss E3, because we would be like, oh, yep, Ubisoft Forward, whatever, they laid an egg. Now we're on to Square. Now we're on to Sony. Now we're on to Nintendo. You know, that was kind of the thing, right? We were always like, okay, what's next? We don't have that right now. So, yeah, here's hoping we can move on through the summer game stuff. Like I said, there's rumors that some things are going to be happening in the next 8 to 9 days, and we'll see if that maybe picks things up a bit as we're about halfway through the summer games announcements. Thanks, guys, for watching. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Dislike it if not. I'll see you next time.